Gamers of the internet, welcome back to 2010. If you're like me, you didn't have any game consoles growing up. If you're extra like me, you grew up in a Mac household, a computer that pretty much never supported any major games. What is an aspiring gamer to do in these harsh circumstances? The answer, of course, is to suffer. I mean it. I spent a lot of time being alienated from other children at school because they had things I loved but couldn't have. During school events, all the other kids would be sitting together playing on their DS Lites, and I would just be off in the corner alone, feeling like a worthless loser. It was a dark time. At least I got to play Flash games. Flash games may have technically been the lowest common denominator of gaming, but that didn't mean they weren't fucking awesome. Even though web-based Flash games might be dead, we live in a glorious age of regular people volunteering their time to preserve internet history. For this video, I'm using Flashpoint to play all these old classics. Definitely check it out if you want to relive the glory days too. My favorite game from this bygone era absolutely has to be Age of War. The music has a lot to do with that. I'm a big music guy, so a killer track like the Age of War theme has lived rent-free in my head ever since I was 10 years old. In case you were wondering, the name of the song is Glorious Morning by Waterflame. And they've made other versions of the song too that are also really good. The music should be playing now, unless copyright is blocking it. Music isn't enough to make a game great. The game part also kind of has to be good. So, is Age of War good? Has it aged like a fine wine? Or like a glass of milk? Okay, so the goal in Age of War is to destroy your opponent's base while stopping them from destroying your base. You do this by buying units and turrets with money you receive from destroying enemy units. Both you and your enemy are stuck in the middle of a boxed canyon, with your units walking single file into certain death. As you defeat your enemies, you don't just earn gold, but you also get XP that will advance you to the next Age of War. See what they did there? There are 5 ages to go through. Prehistoric, medieval, the Spanish Inquisition for some reason, modern, and future. Each age provides you with much more powerful offensive units and defensive turrets. You also get an active ability with a cooldown in each age that essentially functions like a board clear, but it's kind of inconsistent with how well they work. The biggest problem with Age of War is that the game just sort of plays itself. Once you get some turrets set up, you can just sit back and only make units on occasion. Though I'd be lying if I said it still wasn't fun, even if it is in a cookie clicker kind of way. Maybe it's more interactive on Impossible mode? I appear to have a skill issue. Let's move on to another game with both a war theme and a chill vibe. Bubble Tanks. Specifically, Bubble Tanks 3. Why the third one? Because Bubble Tanks 3 has an awesome customization system. But let me back up a bit first. Bubble Tanks is a very simple game. You play as a tank made out of bubbles, and destroy other tanks made out of bubbles. It's very simple, and just looking at it pretty much sums up exactly what it is. You collect bubbles by killing enemies that eventually lead to you leveling up. This is where the game gets super fun. You get to fully customize your tank. How it looks, what weapons you put on it, what passives it has, that kind of thing. The game might be called Bubble Tanks, but I always felt like I was the captain of a big capital spaceship. You know, like Captain Kirk or something. I mean, hey, you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on EVE Online? Well, play Bubble Tanks instead. It's free. The gameplay might be simple, But getting to play with all kinds of different loadouts gives this game way more replay value than it has any right to have. In my recording, it took me about an hour to get to the final boss before Endless Mode. I can only imagine how many hours I spent on this game as a kid. Even now as an adult, there's just something about this game that's hard to put down. It's like only 20% away from being a $10 indie game on Steam with overwhelmingly positive reviews. This was by far the most fun game I played while making this video. It actually holds up. It's super good. Of course, as an adult, I have access to way more options now than I did back then. As a kid, I was desperate to play games like Call of Duty and Halo, but without an Xbox 360, I couldn't. Lucky for me, Flash games had some pretty solid equivalents. This is Strike Force Heroes. It's obviously cut from the same cloth as Call of Duty. You pick from one of 4 different classes to play as, each with a different assortment of weapons and equipment options. The game even has a level up system that unlocks more gear as you get XP from killing enemies. It has the kind of game modes you would expect any multiplayer shooter to have. And there's Team Deathmatch, Domination, Capture the Flag, all the classics. You can play these modes by setting up a regular game from a lobby, but Strike Force Heroes also has a campaign, complete with voice-acted cutscenes.
They're here! I have to escape!
Speaking of voice acting, each of the classes you pick from also has their own unique voice, including Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Show me your wounds!
Let's do this. Hooah! Bring it on!
The campaign starts out very easy with pretty brain-dead AI, but the later levels give them a lot more intelligence. I wouldn't say it ever gets hard, but it's always engaging. As a poor man's COD, this is really good. It checks all the boxes you hope it would as a child. That's probably enough talking about war-themed games. Let's instead move on to an even scarier theme: disease. I'm talking about Pandemic. Not the board game, the Flash game. Specifically Pandemic 2. That's just the one I played as a kid. Pandemic 2 is basically what modern-day Plague Inc. is. You're tasked with wiping out humanity via some kind of contagion that you make. I gotta be honest, it's a lot easier said than done. I think I remember beating this game once as a kid, but after dozens of attempts as an adult, I was unable to even come close. When you start a new game, a random region of the world starts out infected. Then it's up to you to infect everyone else. As people become infected, you earn evolution points you can spend to increase your disease's resistance to certain factors, make it transferable via different vectors, and of course, unlock new symptoms. The reason this game is so fucking stupid hard is because humanity is on top of spotting infections. Even if the only symptoms are like sweating and nausea, they will identify it and immediately start shutting down anything that could increase the spread of the disease. Unlike the real world, the humans in Pandemic actually try to avoid being infected. You don't need to tell them to social distance twice. In all the games I played, as soon as I began spreading my disease beyond its country of origin, governments took action to prevent the pandemic. It's like I lost before I even started playing. I'm sure if you played this game as a kid, you understand the pain. Why won't my disease just infect Madagascar already? I mean, look at this! The entire world has totally shut down, and the only symptom in my disease is a cough. A cough! I think this game might be cheating. Maybe it's the universe's way of telling me I should stop playing Flash games and do something a little more productive. It's just as well. Without being able to access the websites I used to use, I can't even remember all the games I spent the most time in. Why don't you let me know what Flash games you played as a kid? I'm sure I'll have some overlap with most of you, and it would be nice to revisit these old classics again. While you're leaving me a comment, also go ahead and subscribe, or leave a like, or watch one of my other videos. I'm sure I've made something else that would interest you if you've already gotten this far. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a wonderful day, everyone.